Hello and good morning. Welcome to Find Your Freedom TV. You are here with Jodie, one of the co-founders of The 7 Effect. And Find Your Freedom TV is basically 30 minutes jam-packed with proven strategies, tips and ideas to help you find your financial, mental and emotional freedom. So far on this season, which is our very first season of Find Your Freedom TV, we've talked about becoming financially free with John and Mary and myself through property, business and shares. We've talked about becoming emotionally free when we had the amazing Michelle Jules Parson, funeral celebrant and end-of-life companion, join us a fortnight ago, and looking at how we can release some of the grief that we hold when we lose someone that's close to us or when we separate from a relationship. So today we are ready to talk about how to become mentally free through NLP. And the reason I chose today's topic was because last week here at the 7 Effect, we had our NLP masterclass and I was joined by the amazing Toni Everard. Now, Toni is an NLP master and she's also an NLP trainer. So she can teach you how to become an NLP practitioner and even go on to do your NLP master training. So what better person to join us today than a good friend of mine and one of my co-facilitators and the NLP master, Toni Everard. So please put your hands together. Come on in, Toni, and join us for today's episode. Here she comes. Now I see we've got some viewers already jumped on as well. Good morning, everyone, and thanks for joining us. Let us know you're here and say hi. Oh, Toni popped in and popped out again. While we're waiting for Toni to jump on, I'll just give you a little bit of background. So it's a funny story, actually, Toni's and mine. Now, we met when Toni came along to, I think it was maybe last year, she's been following the 7 Effect for some time, and she came along to one of our half-day business builder masterclasses. Toni at the time was working part-time, but also doing some NLP and practitioner training, and she knew that that was the path that she wanted to find her freedom in, was to actually build a lifestyle business around her skills as an NLP master and practitioner. Now, the funny thing is, as I share my story of going from, being a single mom, working full-time, stressed out, and a string of dysfunctional relationships, I remember Toni came up to me and said, wow, our stories are so similar. It's quite phenomenal. And as Toni and I have started working together to build her business, I've noticed that the similarities are more and more and more. In fact, it's down to the point of even we have children at the same age. She's got a boy, she's got a girl, sorry, I've got a boy. My son's called Jazz, her daughter's called Jasmine. Our fathers were both mechanics, and there's just so many consistencies. Now, I'm just getting some messages here to let me know that Toni has dropped out. Oh, her internet's dropped out. That means that she might try and jump on in with her phone if she can. Whilst we're waiting for Toni, I thought I would share with you some of the ideas that we talked about during the NLP masterclass. And when it comes to becoming mentally free, so this is about going, okay, I feel trapped in my own mind, because as human beings, we often get very consumed by our thoughts and trapped in those thoughts. When it comes to finding our mental freedom, there is one question that I put up on the board on day 2 of our NLP masterclass. And it's one question that I would encourage you to never, ever, ever ask yourself again. Can you guess what that question is? Now, it's an interesting question, and the reason I asked this question, or the reason I put this question up on the board, is because through all my years of coaching people, I've come to realize that there are some distinct differences between the people who succeed and manage to just smash their goals and get things done, and the people who seem to just flounder. They get stuck. They have these big dreams and hopes and ambitions, but they just can't seem to get things in place and actually get to that point in life that they really want to be. And there's a consistency that I found, and it's related to this one question. Do you want to know what the question is yet? In fact, I'll get my producer to type in this question and put next to it a big, do not ask yourself this question. So here's the question. Why am I like this? Why? Why am I like this? Why is this happening to me? Have you ever asked yourself that question? So, why am I like this? Or why me? That kind of why me question is a very ineffective question. You might be thinking, well, why? Why is that an ineffective question? The reality is, because if you ask yourself that question again and again and again, you send yourself into a spiral of self-analysis that gets you nowhere. In fact, it's almost like a corkscrew going further and further down, away from the resources you need, to which is to move towards your goal. If you think about it, and I love the work of Martin Seligman. So Martin Seligman, traditional psychologist, he's got a fantastic TED talk you might want to watch. And Martin Seligman says that the industry that he was in, which was psychology, and he still is in that industry, over and above all everything else, was just ineffective. He said, I got to the point after 30 or 40 years in my career where I got tired of just teaching people how to live with misery. And so he was really one of the instigators of the positive psychology movement. And traditional psychology, we're talking, Freudian type psychology, really does analyze that why. So what is a better question to ask? How? How am I like this? How am I doing this? How would I like to be? And you can see that when you start to ask yourself how, you get a very different type of response, and it's a very different energy. Now, I'm hoping that Toni's jumped back on. Let's have a look. Oh, thank you, Stephen. Wishing you a great show. Thank you so much for being here. Hi, Corinda. Lovely to see you here as well. I'm just checking in to see if Toni is jumping back on board. Let me check with my notes. Toni is coming in and out of the lobby, still troubleshooting with Toni. Okay, these are meant to be my private notes, but we're still troubleshooting. The joys of a live show, hey, don't you just love it? So I'd love to know from you all, has anyone ever tried NLP or used NLP before? I probably should say what NLP actually means, because after our masterclass, we did get a few questions around that. It stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. So the neuro relates to, obviously, the neurology of our brain. Linguistics is all about the language we use. And the language we use can be very revealing around our current perceptions or representation of the world. And programming relates to the fact that when we understand our neurobiology and the relation with linguistics and body language, we can actually program our brain to show up and to operate in different ways. I, as an NLP master practitioner as well, love playing with the different practices and processes within NLP. But for me, I'm very different to Toni in my approach, because generally speaking, I use just one or two techniques and I like to delve deep with just those. Toni, however, as an NLP trainer, is much more of an all-rounder, and she really does have a hold on many of the different practices and techniques. And drum roll, please, her name has popped up, so I think here she is. Oh my God, Toni, how are you? Welcome. Can you hear and see me?
I can hear and see you. How are you, Jodie?
I'm fantastic. How are you? So, Toni, thanks so much for being our guest here on Find Your Freedom TV this week. I absolutely loved co-facilitating with you and bouncing off. And isn't it nice to know that when it comes to neuro-linguistics programming, we can have these very different styles, but both still get great results with our clients. So it's really fun to have done that work with you. And thanks very much for being here. So the first question I want to ask you, Toni, is tell us a little bit about, what does freedom mean to you?
Yeah, great question. Essentially, freedom is being able to do what you want with who you want. And I think the biggest difference that's I've found in my life is really the belief behind that, the belief that you can actually choose freedom if you want to, because I think so many people are sort of caught up in this belief system. This is just how things go, and don't have, you know, that awareness that things can be different. So really having the ability to know that you can choose something different for yourself.
Yes, and that's what we talked about a lot at the masterclass, wasn't it? Is really opening up the choices, because sometimes people's minds get locked into, this is my lot, this is how I am, this is how it has to be. So freedom is built on more and more choices and really seizing those choices. So Toni, give us a little bit of a brief background. We talked a bit about you and I and how our backgrounds are uncannily alike. But give us just a little mini background on your path into neuro-linguistics programming. Are you there?
Yeah.
We've got, Toni's breaking up, unfortunately. We're not having much luck with that. Don't you just love live TV? Now, unfortunately, Toni, we are now a little bit. Your internet's so slow.
Frozen.
Now you're back a little bit.
I don't know what's happening with it today. Am I back?
Yes,
all right.
You are.
Sorry, folks. The internet, I don't know what's happening with it this morning. Good. So my background, can you hear me now?
Yes, can. Go. Thumbs up.
Okay, good. So a few years ago, about 5 years ago, after a series of different events, I guess I got to a point with myself where, wow, what the hell is going on? Single mum, working a part-time job, and, you know, I really thought I needed to change. I needed to do something different. You know, I didn't have a relationship, so I could blame it, and so I thought it was my job, and I needed to do something different with my job, and so that's different too. And around this time is I actually started doing some internet stuff on the internet, some marketing. Through that process, the understanding of how important it is to do the inner work on yourself to get different results in your life. Mm-hmm. And I met my first coach at this time as well. And so first coach was where I started to focusing on what I want and really challenging the beliefs that I held about myself. And my coach at that time, she was a big Tony Robbins fan. And if anyone knows, Tony Robbins' background is in NLP. Yes. And it was amazing, and you know, I had so much you know, excitement and motivation after coming out of this 4 days like a rock concert with Tony Robbins, and I thought, wow, you know, I really want to learn these skills and have this toolkit myself to be able to continue to motivate myself and continue to focus on what I want and, you know, really change my life around. So it was that really led me to go and you know, seek out NLP training. And so I went and did my practitioner training. Yeah. And from there, I just really created so much change. You know, I broke through so many barriers, got rid of so much emotional baggage, and set some goals that over the next 12 months from that time, I completely changed my life around, changed my career, got a new relationship, changed my parenting, changed my health, and everything. And so that really is why I'm so passionate about helping people do that very same thing.
Brilliant. And I love the work that you do, because a lot of the time you really do begin with the preface of becoming your own best coach. So it's like, you know, you have your one-day workshop where you teach people how to take on these tools so they can coach themselves through that. And what I love as your business coach working with you, seeing you in literally just the last 2 months, even though you've come so far and achieved, there's little glass ceilings that you're breaking through every month. And, you know, in the last month, you smashed through another one to have your biggest income earning month in your business in your history of being a practitioner. So it doesn't matter what level you're at, there's always opportunities to keep breaking through those glass ceilings and finding freedom at a higher plane. So I love that you really come from that place of pick up the resources so you can use them on yourself, and you genuinely do practice what you preach in that space, and I watch you doing that all the time. It's fantastic.
But that's such a good point, Jodie, because you ask me that, like, do you ever get there? Do you ever
we've lost it.
It's always keep improving is really important.
Absolutely. And I think it's nice to arrive somewhere and go, okay, I'm happy with what I have and be grateful for that. But then what is the next evolution? So constantly, lifelong learning is a big part of our ethos here at the Seven Effect, and I know it is yours as well. Toni, can you share with us some specific examples of how NLP or hypnosis has helped your clients find freedom? So is there any particular examples that come to mind?
Definitely. I think because I like working with business owners, especially. I like working with business owners because they often have that mindset of, you know, I want to create more and I want to improve myself and, you know, and do that work. And I find that really inspiring to work with those people. And, you know, one of the things is people have so many beliefs around money and their ability to ask for money or, you know, value themselves around. And I guess I can relate to this because, you know, as you were saying before, I've done a lot of work in this space, and these beliefs that we have that, you know, sometimes have come in from childhood that we carry with us that we may be aware of. And so, you know, even just recently I had one of the attendees at my workshop had a belief around asking for money. And once we went through a really simple process of getting rid of that belief, she's reported that she's now having very easy conversations with people. She's not afraid to say, you know, what the value is of her work and ask for that money and get paid. So, you know, it's just changing those kinds of beliefs makes a massive difference to then the actions that we take and the results that flow on from there.
And it's little things, isn't it? It's little differences that can make the biggest difference in our lives. And those little differences, as you said, are often the beliefs. So, Toni, I know that over the years I've been held back in my own mind by several different beliefs. I just wanted to know if there was one particular belief that's held you back from feeling free that you've now let go of for you personally.
Yeah, there's one belief, if it was only just one belief. But look, I think the one most recently, which I guess is still along this same line, if we talk about business and money and those kinds of things, I grew up with these family stories around business. So as long as I can remember, my grandparents had a story about how my grandpa had a business and it was quite successful, and then his brothers got involved and tried to rip him off, and it was a big, long, drawn-out court case, and there was a lot of falling out and, you know, a lot of problems that carried on with that. And my dad grew up with that. My dad tells me how he grew up with that for about years of all of this drama around business. And then, you know, my dad went into business and he had troubles in his business. And so I had carried a lot of these beliefs around what does business mean, that, you know, that somehow someone's going to try and do you over, or that you're going to lose money, or that's going to be stressful. And although I wasn't consciously aware of these things, they were sitting in the background so that it was affecting really the action that I was taking. And once I got awareness of these beliefs, they seemed ridiculous because I know that, you know, I have an accounting background, I have a banking and finance background. Like I have all the knowledge that I need to avoid those kinds of situations and make good decisions. And once that come out into the openness and my awareness, it was like all these new kind of neural pathways lit up about what I could actually do and create. And, the flow on that has, a lot more success in my business as well. So that was really a big one for me.
Yeah, and that was literally in the last few months, wasn't it? I remember when all that sort of came up for you, which was really cool.
Yeah.
So, Toni, I know that you love all of the NLP techniques, and watching you introduce our clients to those at the masterclass was fantastic. But what is your favourite NLP technique and why?
My favourite NLP technique, and again, it could be one of many, but I think the one that I do use the most, and it's not traditional NLP, but it very much comes from NLP and hypnosis, and that's timeline therapy. And that is really where I have, for myself and with my clients, make very, very quick, effective and lasting changes around letting go of old beliefs and old emotional baggage. So, people carry these things from events in their past that get pushed down in your unconscious mind, but they sit there and play a role. And having a technique that can go straight to the root cause of that and get it out is so powerful. And it's definitely my most favorite technique that I use all the time.
Can you talk us through a little bit of how that works? So with timeline therapy, you sort of map out a timeline and you take someone back to the time just prior. Is that right? Do you want to just talk us through how that works?
Yeah, absolutely. So we all have an unconscious mind, obviously, and the role of that unconscious mind is to store and organize our memories in a specific way. So we know the difference between what happened yesterday and 10 years ago, what's going to happen next week. It's all organized nicely. And each of those memories has emotion around it. And so if we've had an event that's happened in the past where we haven't been able to process all of that event properly, and there's still some negative emotions or limiting beliefs around that event, our unconscious will repress them so that we basically have the ability to go on with our lives without it being right in our face all the time. It also has the ability to represent those events so that we can process them. So with timeline therapy, we're essentially able to go back in time through our unconscious mind to find these events, and then to get the learning that we need that allows that event to then be fully processed and let go of those beliefs or those emotions, because essentially all of our memories should have positive or neutral emotions around them. And if they don't, it just means we haven't learned enough from that yet, which we can then go and do.
And it's profoundly, as Theoni's actually saying, oh my God, I've been to one of your timeline therapy workshops. And she says here, and worked through limiting beliefs and limiting emotions, and it was very cathartic. But what I've seen happen to clients going through that process is it can be profoundly changing, but in a way that's actually quite subtle, where things are just different but unexplainably, because you let go of the way things once were. And that's when you really know that change is happening at the unconscious level. It's not that I've had this big bam, wow, I'm conscious of what's going on. It's like I just feel differently. I don't know why or how, but things are just very different. And so we have a different now construct in our unconscious mind. It's very cool stuff, isn't it?
Absolutely. And people tend to say that they feel lighter, but like you said, often it's as time goes along that you suddenly realize, wow, I dealt with that situation differently, or I've noticed these different opportunities arise because your mind is just wired slightly to accept new possibilities.
And isn't it amazing that we can all go back in time, just like Back to the Future? We can change how we perceive things then, and we can bring that all the way up to the present day. And it's something that can be done in a very short space of time. It's quite profound. So, Toni, is there a simple NLP technique, now that we've got you crystal clear and your internet's obviously working a bit better, but is there a simple technique that you could talk people through so that for everyone that's watching could apply at home, like just a simple NLP strategy to do from home on yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we'll keep in the line of beliefs, because I know this is such a big one for people. Now, most people have some awareness about some kind of limiting belief that they have. So often it's like, I'm not good enough, or I'm too old, or I don't know enough, or, you know, all of these sort of limiting beliefs. So a really simple way to look at and change the way that you deal with these beliefs is it's really a process of reframing. So a lot of NLP is about reframing, so looking at things in a different context or a different way. So if you had a belief, so if we use an example of I'm not good enough.
Yep.
Okay. So if you have that limiting belief, it's a very popular one. Yeah. Everyone feels like they're the only person that's not good enough, but most people have a sense of this somewhere. So you have this belief, say I'm not good enough. So the first question that you would ask yourself to challenge this belief is it true?
Yeah.
Because often we carry these beliefs and never ever challenge them. We just accept them as they're true. But is it true? How can anyone ever really not be good enough?
Yeah.
Not good enough for what? You know, so if you exactly. And when you challenge a limiting belief and ask if it is true, you know, what you'll most often find is that it's not true. I mean, sometimes there's a difference, obviously, between things that are reality and things that are limiting beliefs. But if it's a limiting belief, you challenge it, is it true? The answer will generally be no.
Yeah.
So once you've challenged it, then the next question you ask yourself is, who would I be without this belief? And when you take the time to consider that, who would I be without this belief? So who would I be without believing that I'm not good enough? And that is a very simple reframe and new image. Then in itself open up a whole. So we've said, okay, is it without this belief?
Yeah.
What that I can see myself as this person without that limiting belief, what actions do I take? And when you sit and consider this, and I've seen it over and over again in the workshops that I've done, and you know, different masterclasses, it opens up possibilities for people. It gives people the ability to see that it's just a story that they've been carrying. And in fact, without that story there's a powerful reframe that you can do, you know, by yourself at home.
Yeah. And it really is, it really is. And I think sometimes the simplest things get overlooked because they are so simple. But from my experience, it's the simplest of things that are so profound. Something else I wanted to share with you all who are watching is that before we did that, Toni had us do an exercise in the masterclass where we wrote down, I am. It was I am, and then you just keep writing all the things that you are for a couple of minutes. And then I am not. And you just listen to what your unconscious feeds you. Then it was I can and I cannot. Is that right, Toni? Was it those four? I can't remember from the workbook.
Yes, correct. Yeah.
Now, I sat, even though I was a co-facilitator, and there's always work to do on me as well, I sat in as a participant when Toni was facilitating that process. And the things that came up around what I am and I am not and what I can and cannot do were really very interesting. They're all stored there in the unconscious, and it's actually really fun to put some light on it and create awareness. So I just want to say thank you very much, Toni. I know we're running out of time now, so I've got to start doing our wrap up. Thank you very much for coming on board and sharing with us. For those of you that are in Adelaide and find this stuff really interesting, Toni has 2 programs that you can tap into, both incredibly high value but very affordable as well if you want to get an introduction into this. So, Toni, what do you got coming up? There's the 1-day NLP and the 3-day hypnosis. Do you want to just give us the dates on those and where people can find info? Yep.
Absolutely. So everything's on my Facebook page, Toni Everard Coaching. You'll find that quite easily. Yep. And under the events tab, there is the 1-day workshop, Coach Yourself to Success, which is the 13th of July. Now, there are still some 2-for-1 tickets available, only a couple of those. So you can get 2 tickets for $97, which is a bargain. And we do a lot of belief work in that one-day workshop. And people have shifted all kinds of beliefs. It's been very, very powerful. And then the second one I have is the 3-day hypnosis training. And that is on the 19th to the 21st of July. And there are some early bird tickets still available for that at $395, which is, again, a really good deal. And hypnosis is amazing to really kind of get an understanding of your unconscious mind, how to stop smoking, lose weight, reduce stress, performance enhancements, lots of really fascinating things. So yeah, there's two really good programs that you can hook into to get a really good introduction into NLP and hypnosis.
Fantastic. And Adair has actually shared the link below in the comments for Toni's events page. And I can say for sure Toni gets rave reviews about her events, so check out her testimonials as well. So Toni, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to wrap up with the 7 steps to move you all closer to your freedom. And if you go back and watch all the episodes and take each of these 7 steps, ultimately you yourself will become financially, mentally and emotionally free. So this week's steps for you are: number 1, make a decision to change. It doesn't have to be a big, bold change, but if there's anything in your life that you're not happy with, just decide to change it. Then find a good coach to work with. I really do think, as Toni said, that was a critical or pivotal step towards her getting towards her success. It's been the same in my life. Whenever I've had a coach, and I still work with several coaches today, you get a coach on board, you start moving at a much more rapid rate towards your goals. Step number 3 is get super specific about what you want. I think a lot of people are very blurry around where they want to be and what they want to achieve. What I've noticed as a coach is when I work with clients, they're very general. They kind of haven't got a real grasp on what they actually want. This is the value of working with a coach. They help you get super specific, and that starts moving you and your unconscious towards your goals. Step number 4 is learn to connect with the 3 parts of your unconscious mind. Now, when you connect with your unconscious mind, and this is the work that I teach my students, you'll come to realize that, number 1, there is a physical symptom that goes with that. You'll feel it in your body somewhere. Number 2, there will be a mental pattern, maybe a bit of self-talk. And number 3, there will be an emotional response. So there's 3 parts to the unconscious mind: physical, mental, and emotional. You need to learn to connect with those. Number 5, identify your triggers and secondary gain. So when we're working with the unconscious mind, if there's a behavior that's firing off, there will be specific triggers about this. And this is the riddle that most people don't realize about themselves. It's just a process. Whatever you're doing is done through a process, and any process can be reprogrammed. You also want to uncover what is the secondary gain, what is the unconscious reason why you are doing this behavior that you don't want to be doing, or why you are not doing the behavior that you want to be doing. So that's step number 5. Step number 6, step number 6 is create a new desired state. And so this links back to understanding what you want. Now we build the desired state around that. So it's a bit like working with the beliefs, but we go, okay, if I want to have confidence, what is the physical, mental, and emotional state around confidence for me? Because everyone does it differently. And step number 7, the final step, is take action daily and get into that state every day as you start to build a new neural pathway. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you, everyone, for joining us on Find Your Freedom TV. I've got a couple of minutes over time, so I'll wrap up now and wish you all an absolutely wonderful week. See you next time. Bye.